I'm Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Sonny.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm Layla.
I don't know, if I really believe in, a kind of purpose outside of the self. So I kind of just feel like I want to do what I enjoy doing and makes me feel like a good person. But I don't know if that's, so specific or if those standards are specific enough to call it, a purpose or a calling.
Do you feel like a calling has to be, a job?
I was just going to say, I feel like I always assume purpose is, an occupation, but I don't know if I entirely feel that way.
I definitely do not.
I think, a job is just more, kind of cookie-cutter things that, society kind of put out for us, and, maybe our purpose, is partially fulfilled by a job or two, but, I think it's, kind of separate from that. I'd agree with that.
I'm just a little weird. I've wanted, just to, have, a house and kids and a dog since I was, in first grade.
Yeah.
I just want to, live in the suburbs, and I want to cook all day, go on walks.
Do you like cooking?
I love to cook. I want to solve crosswords. Yeah.
Oh, I love the crossword.
Do you see work as, a means to an end versus an end itself? Something that brings you happiness, quote-unquote purpose, and the means to support yourself? Or would you rather, work and then just reap those benefits after you've gotten the money for it?
I have been actively thinking about this every day.
Same.
Because I'm an econ major. So, I'm not sure. I feel like it can be an end, but I'm trying to decide, if it's something that's, at the very least morally neutral. Sometimes, work can just be work. If you don't love your job, you don't hate it, and you're not doing something bad to the world, you can put in 40 hours and then go home.
For me this past summer, I worked with a guy who literally lived to work. His entire life was just integrated around, he called it work-life integration. He didn't call it work-life balance. He called it work-life integration.
Interesting.
And initially, I wasn't sure, how I felt about that, right? I saw that there's pros and cons to it, right? In some ways, it can be very fulfilling because you have this, one concrete thing you're always working towards. Right? You know what your goals are. It's, very well established. Whereas on the other side, though, I think it can be very consuming, and it's, you sometimes feel very tunnel vision. It's the only thing in your life, and that's, that's also bad in some ways.
Jeremy, you said, you want to retire. What does that kind of look like? Is that kind of what Sonny was saying? You're kind of, I guess there's one way of looking at it where you're just working throughout your life, and then you have that time at the end where you can do something else, or you kind of seeing retirement as more of an active thing. What's that kind of look like to you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like you want to cook and do crosswords and play with your dog.
Kind of just want to hang out all the time. But then when I do that too much, when I'm home for a break, I don't want to go back to school because I'm enjoying it because it's just a month. But I feel after at some point, when I do that for too long, I'm well, now I want to go back to school. Now I want to learn about things.
I always get antsy to come back. As I've gotten older, I feel like I've organically started filling that time with things that are I guess intellectually stimulating that aren't which I feel that's the type of life that I would want to live, is feeling fulfilled in the amount that I'm challenging my brain, but also being able to relax and live, be healthy and pursue health and happiness for the sake of themselves, and not be doing something for 50 hours a week that I'm not really
Yeah, I think my ideal lifestyle is just balanced. I don't really know what that will look like, but I feel with the previous question of means to an end versus an end, I kind of see it as a means to an end, but not the end being just this completely recreational lifestyle. I feel it's an end to achieve the values that I live by, and that could be I enjoy making other people happy, and that could be done with one aspect being work, something that involves the service of others, but also I get to do that through other parts of my life, and I would like my job to allow myself to do so, to hang out with friends, to be with my family and give back to my family.
For me, I feel kind of limited by feeling my job has to be a calling. I feel because I do want to give back to the world and make the world better and stuff, but a lot of people just kind of go do consulting, make a shit ton of money, and then have free time and money and resources to go pursue all of the same values that I do in their off hours, so it's weird about trying to think about making it align.
I'm curious, like, is balance time related, or is balance more so just really like to have like one good activity a week that you keep coming back to? How exactly would you define that balance?
I think time is like a good way to start, because like that's kind of how people structure their like lives around, like, now they're like, people are scheduling things, and like you work on something by devoting time to it. So I think it is like mostly time, and with that, like your mental attention and like devotion to something that you support, there's like something that you want to try.
We definitely are not balanced here, like definitely not. So it's like kind of weird, because I feel like I've had semesters or maybe weeks that feel really balanced, and I'm like getting to go to the gym and getting to like cook and getting to be with my friends and doing like, and being really engaged with clubs and being really engaged in classes and like actually doing my readings and like feeling really like living really consciously. But then there's weeks where I'm like, this week like I like blacked out for like 5 days, like, and then just like woke up on the other side, like, you know, they pushed through and like got through the work and everything, and then just like it's over. And it just feels like not like, if that were the type of lifestyle that comes with like a very conventional job, that would be bad. Not enjoy that.
I'm afraid of looking back and realizing that I didn't really live at all through that. And even if I've achieved this said purpose, that I don't think I know what it is right now for me, I don't know if I'd be happy with like how I lived my life.
My take, or my guess, is that it probably should be like outward facing, like the thing that guides your life, like probably would be best if it was something about like, I don't know, making the world better, or like contributing to the lives of other people, even if it's just like your family or people in your own circle. But I don't know, I've had a few crises, I feel like, in the years here, of thinking like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I not just go work service, like make enough money to get by, and then just like chill and like enjoy the day to day? And I still kind of think that sometimes.
But also I think there is like just this overwhelming pressure to figure out in college, because like, I think before I got here, I was like, I'm coming here to figure that out. But I think it's like, we're still like super young, and there is a lot of time, and Penn, I think, is just a place where that gets put at the forefront very early. Yeah, accelerated is a good way to put it.
Just building on that, I think it's almost like a constraint. Like, there's this desire to make money, to live like a satisfactory life, have like good living conditions, but we also like have these other things that we want to do. And it's I feel like, just touching on some other points that were made, like I think there's a lot of pressure put on us like 18, 19, 20 years old to like decide what we want to do. I can imagine that's like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like really hard to navigate.
Are you guys feeling that? I mean, you're sophomores, right? Are you feeling that like yet?
This might be a Penn specific thing, but like a lot of my friends are like very on board with like the recruiting thing, and like I've basically just started, and I feel like very behind the curve. So I definitely feel that pressure, I guess.
Yeah. Thinking about the purpose and the calling stuff, I try to think about like what a day-to-day looks like that would be fulfilling for me. What do you do after you wake up? Like, what's fulfilling? I would be curious to hear about what your guys' fulfilling perfect day is.
I guess for me, you know, I think that my perfect day wouldn't necessarily occur like right after graduation, like within 10 years' time. I think like I have this mindset right now that I want to be able to provide for my family. Like, I want to take care of my mom and my sister and my dad. Like, I want to. That's one of my goals post graduation.
Yeah.
Right, and I want to put myself in the best position to do that.
Does that mean financially?
It does mean financially, right? I guess it would be nice to like have the time to spend with them as well.
On the side.
A little bit, yeah.
Both of those things are pretty important to me. Like that's going to require, I guess, a lot of effort up front, but then 10 years down the line. I think the way I rationalize it is that the effort will pay off.
So you're kind of like building in the idea that there's going to be like some front-loaded sacrifice,
I think so. And I'm personally okay with that.
Interesting.
Like I find like front-loaded sacrifice is often necessary to make the greatest progress. Like generally in the things that I've done. And like even 10 years down the line, I can see myself working as like a part of my perfect day.
Right.
Because I do derive purpose from work. I do enjoy aspects of it.
Yeah.
I think it like keeps the mind occupied in a certain sense, like a different way of engaging yourself. And so like perfect day would probably just include some degree of work thought.
I agree that I think my perfect day, well, I don't know if it would have work, but I think my perfect like week would have work. You know, I enjoy a nice weekend. but I do think like
Big
I would be.
weekend guy.
I'm a fan of them, yeah. But I think that, I wouldn't, not to use the word purpose, but I don't think it would be fulfilling enough to like not work, to not do some sort of research, to have something, and like, consider with practical considerations, it's like, well, things also cost money. So to do the things that you want to do, you probably have to sacrifice, at least to some extent. And if that's for your own life, or if it's like to make the world a better place, or to like donate money, or to for like your family, like the future of your children, like I think that that's necessary. But I wouldn't want to work so much that like you don't have time for like those small things, like you said. Like I'd like to be able to get up in the morning and have time to like cook breakfast and then sit and like drink coffee. Like I don't want to like I get up in the morning, like sometimes nights when I don't sleep enough, like I don't get up and I make the coffee. I make it the night before and then I put it in the fridge so that I can like chug it on my way out.
God.
Not because like I don't do that very often, but it's like I don't have time to like
But just
wait
the
for that
fact
to
that
cool
that's
down.
like the fact that that's a consideration like at this point is so interesting.
I'm on the same boat with where like food and enjoying food both by yourself and like with your family or with your friends is like one of the little things in life that I think if I didn't have time for later on, I'd be like very sad. Like I also would like to be able to cook breakfast and ideally dinner every single day.
Yeah.
Lunch is sometimes my convenience meal. But yes, to like not be stressed about having time.
I hate that like this is the way I think about it, but like the like sitting down and having coffee and looking out the window and like listening to music or doing something deliberate with that time feels like such a luxury.
Yeah.
At least right now, like the vantage point that I'm looking at it from, like it feels luxurious, which like for me, a life where I feel like I'm living with purpose probably would not.
I think people think about it in like two perspectives also. And especially, I don't know if this is how you guys feel, but sometimes I feel like doing things that are considered unproductive, like where like some people might argue that like spending time looking out the window and like not doing anything that either betters yourself or like betters the world is unproductive. And so sometimes I feel like guilty for doing that when I'm like spending extra time doing the things that like I really enjoy, but it's like
when I first started approaching like I guess taking time on the weekend to like watch YouTube in bed and like not do work, I would feel guilty about that too. And at first I think like I felt like I was forcing myself to kind of like enjoy these moments, and then I guess over time it just felt more natural, like, oh, this is just like a 15-minute period where I can just like watch gaming videos and not think about like my life purpose or anything, and just enjoy that moment.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. I in high school was like part of my life in high school was my mom and I just the two of us lived together for the last 2 years of high school. And we always would have dinner and we would always watch an episode of a TV show that we were watching together. And that was like it's like kind of stupid and mindless, but like some of my favorite like memories, I think. And it like coming to Penn, I like barely watch TV. Like I just don't.
It's hard with those like longer form like episodes. Like a lot of Netflix shows are like 50-minute episodes.
I know, and
I'm
I'm thinking like,
when am I gonna watch this?
I know.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones because like, I just don't have time for that. And like
that's
I don't
crazy
know.
that we like all are like, yeah, of course you don't have time to watch like a 45-minute. Like that just feels
it's like
so.
a common experience.
Yeah.
There's
There's like there's no novelty to that thought. Yeah.
It's like we treat time as like a zero-sum game.
Right.
Like everything you do, it's like you have a fixed amount of time that you can allocate in any given day.
and you're like sacrificing the opportunity cost of something else.
Yeah.
It's very economical.
Do you guys know deep work? Like the concept of deep work. It's like a very intense like organizational method, I guess, for people who are in really intellectual professions and like really need to like zero in and do deep work for like some amount of time every day or a few times a week. But I feel like that would be my ideal, because I feel like a lot of the time like I'm like working all the time, but I feel like if I were more deliberate about the time that I was doing work and was like more
like putting more of your energy into that time that you have,
then I probably would like get more done. Like it wouldn't take as long.
It's interesting like how you described like putting more like energy and like effort into those like times, like deep work. I almost think like you could apply that on the flip side too, like almost putting like more of your energy, more of yourself into like those times when you're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
I think for me that would be like more of a rich life. I think like just putting more of myself into everything I do, like whether it's work or like, you know, just having fun.
Yeah, there's definitely like weeks at the school that I'll be like at the gym with like a podcast on, or like with the audiobook of a book I need to be reading for class.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you're trying to multitask.
Like
That's
when you're
the
trying to
worst
do
part.
everything at
That's the
once.
worst
Well,
part.
I've been there too.
And it's like, oh my god, can I not just be at the like
'Cause then you
at the
just
gym
can't
and
enjoy
like
it.
be
Yeah,
there and like
exactly.
be doing that, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to like lift with whatever
Mhm.
like
Like,
school thing is like ringing
On
in my
2 times
ears.
speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah.
That's like the 2 times speed thing is insane too.
Yeah.
Like I listening to a book on 2 times speed for a class, like that's not really like
That's
that
the
doesn't
worst
feel like
feeling.
fulfilling
Yeah.
work. Like that's
Yeah.
just like it's very rote, it's very like get through kind of thing.
Mhm.
And, like that's what I was saying earlier about like the weeks where I just like wake up afterward and I'm like,
What
oh
happened?
yeah.
I think that's also like a product of like how much choice and like how much is out there now compared to like I think our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation where it was like you kind of take what you can get and this is like what's been done for years, so like I'm just gonna do this. But now it's like there's like so much that we think that we're like able to get done, so like why wouldn't we do that? And then we ended up like trying to fit that into our like lives all at once.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the stuff we're talking about is like very self-focused. Like the type of concerns we've brought up have been very much about like what is this going to feel like for me,
Mhm.
which is interesting because I feel like a lot of people talking about purpose, it is very like, well, like to be a doctor to like cure cancer so that like
Right.
save the world kind of thing. But it's
Mhm.
interesting that this has been a lot more like micro and a lot more personal.
With respect to control and kind of attainability, maybe that's why like the purpose discussion that we've had so far kind of focuses more inward.
Mhm.
Because like if you have a a very broad purpose, for example like curing cancer, or, like saving the world or something like that, I think those are all very noble.
Mhm.
But I think like it's not as attainable, for example, as something more inwardly focused, right? So I think
You think just because it's like closer?
yeah, it's more
maybe,
closer to you, right? And like, you have more control over it.
Yeah.
And I think like with purpose specifically, it needs to be something executable and tangible, right?
Maybe you invest in just like not really doing super purposeful stuff and just like exploring and like trying, and then you find the purpose supposedly, and like that's kind of part of what the payoff is like getting that clarity.
I like that idea a lot. Like
Yeah.
you invest in yourself, I guess, kind of. Time being you explore different things, and then your payoff is the ultimate reward is being able to help others. And
I'm kind of getting like the idea of this that we're saying you have to get your own life right before you can expect to like find something that you'd want to do that could help others. You know, what was it about like the compassion burnout? Like, what was it?
Compassion fatigue, yeah.
Right. That's like it seems like, you know, you might have some goal of like saving lives or making the world a better place or something, you know, to that effect, but like what we're figuring out right now at the ages of like 20 plus or minus, you know, a couple, is like what kind of lifestyle would we enjoy? Like when we talk about our perfect day, we say, well, I'd like to do this, then I'd like to go to work, whatever that is, and then I like to do this. 'Cause
it's kind of like fill in the blank.
yeah,
like,
it almost doesn't matter what the work is yet, because it's like, to your point about like deep work, it's like sometimes, you know, having more time to yourself could get you more work done, like it could be more effective, because you have to get yourself right before you can do anything. So I think that, you know, it's not necessarily like incompatible that we're talking about like ourselves with like the idea of having like a self, like an other serving purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm a personal believer in like, even if you don't know what it is you want to do, but you do know like the basic values that you live by, like you were saying, being kind, being good. Like you kind of have that like this faith, and if you stick to those values, like you'll end up there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw something recently about the election that was talking about like people talking about elections as like a bus trip where it's like maybe the thing the people you're voting for aren't like perfect and they're not like getting you exactly where you want to be, but like you're trying to get as close as possible. It's like the same thing with a bus. Like if you're trying to get to a destination, like you won't just not take the bus. You're just gonna get to the as close as you can get, which I feel like is kind of a helpful analogy here too, of like the like gravitate toward good and like away from bad, or like away from things that don't align with your values towards things that do, and then just kind of like fingers crossed that it'll pan out.
I feel the same way about like actions where I think a lot of people need to do them for them to be meaningful. I feel like the example I've used, like that I've talked with like past roommates about, is like recycling. Like we were talking about like Philly, like do they actually recycle?
Oh my god, I have this like
Yeah,
dilemma all the time.
Yeah, and like they're like, okay, if like I know even if I recycle, I feel like no one else is, and so like, is that even doing it, and then is that worth it? But then like, if you think about every having that mindset,
that same internal monologue.
Yeah, then
someone
like,
else will recycle for me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting that like even with such a broad issue like that, like recycling, right? There's so much diffusion of responsibility.
Totally.
Like I remember like I was reading in psychological experiments about diffusion of responsibility, and it's always like a small group of people, or like let's say like 15, 20 people. But even among like a population of I don't know how many millions of people live in Philadelphia, there's still diffusion of responsibility with an issue to recycling. It's really interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame.
I think the idea of legacy is kind of a weird one, because on the one hand, I think it's important to, like, the idea of, once you die, like, that you've made an impact on the world, I think is good. I mean, if that's just, like, in the people that you've interacted with, like, the people whose lives you touch, I think that would be a great thing. And I think change is good because there's so much that's bad. So there needs to be change. So if you're a part of that change, then I think you should, I think you should be proud of that fact. Right, you'd be dead. But you should want to work towards that. But I think, like, in the specific context of, like, a legacy, or, like, at Penn, that sounds like have your name on a building.
Yeah.
And if you were really rich and you wanted to, like, fund some program and that gave people an education, like, that would be an awesome thing. But if your name is on it, that's different. Like, you're, like, to get your name on a thing, some people think that's a legacy. Like, to have your name, like, people to remember you.
Yeah.
That's not like a legacy to me. Like that's really just like ego. That's not like making a difference.
I'm glad that you're getting to that, because that was like the first thing I thought of too. Was like, it just feels like sometimes when you talk about legacy, there is like the idea of like, okay, like lives you've touched and like people that you've like loved and been friends with and like all that stuff is a legacy. And then there's like the like, how do I
commemorate that explicitly?
Yeah, or like immortalize myself even. Like it's like it is like kind of a selfish thing of like, maybe it's just like more fundamentally us like dealing with the fact that we're immortal and like we're gonna die. Like I think that like the idea of a legacy is very much tied to like just us.
Like preserving like who we are
right
like, after we die.
Right.
Yeah.
And
like I think mortality is like at the base of that question even being a question. Yeah, it seems odd to think of it as like the culmination of your life being like the Layla Murphy like
bench.
Yeah. It's like, it's weird. That's definitely not what I would want. I was thinking about this because my friend's grandfather passed recently and they did a service for him, which apparently was very beautiful, and like she was telling me about it, and there was like so many ways that he had impacted the town that he lived in. Like was like school board president, like made the hockey rink, like coached hockey, like did a bunch of amazing like initiatives, but it's like in a town that I've never heard of, had never heard of him, like to me is completely like invisible.
I feel like with legacy, it's something that you have to approach without expecting recognition for it. Like I think you act in the ways that like, again, like you according to your personal values, and you kind of trust that will pass on to people, and like your legacy won't necessarily live in like a name or like a donation amount, but it'll be in like the ways other people act because of you.
Right.
So
I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to like want to be famous or to want to be remembered or to like get your name on a building. I just feel like that can't be like that has to be like you have to earn it. I think it's my point. Like if you want, like if your friend's grandfather, or like if they decided to name something after him because he earned it, then that would be great. And even if he had, paid for something and wanted it named after him, sounds like he did enough to earn it. But it's like if you just like have money and you throw it at it, you throw like your money at something because you want, to see your name, like, that's fine, but it's not good.
Yeah, the fame.
It's kind of just
like,
neutral. Like if it's good for you, that's okay. But like I think when people only want that and not like they don't want to actually like deserve it, then that's kind of a problem. But I don't care if you want both.
Yeah.
Generally.
So in that case, like, do you think it's coming from like it has to come from good intentions? So like I guess in the case where someone who's like paying to like say they're making a big donation and like getting their name put on something for their donation, like I guess if they're making that payment out of, you know, self-interest, I guess that would be a different case than like making that payment out of saying, all right, I think these dollars will go to like help people.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard, at least from like a public perspective, to see
Tell
like
which it is.
yeah, what they were going for.
Yeah.
And like that can be painted both ways. Like I think a lot of people will view that as like, oh, they're just paying to get their name up there, and then other people will be like, oh, they're just, you know, they're paying like from like a good place, and it's like really hard to tell.
Yeah.
So,
What is the type of legacy that you guys would be interested in having?
I definitely think it's people oriented. When I was in high school, I was very anti having children, but then I think since I've gone to college and like talked to people about it, I'm like way on the other end where like I don't know if I'll ever be a teacher in my life, but I think like having the opportunity to pass on like good values to your kids is like amazing, and like you might not have like that opportunity to be like the greatest teacher for this one or two beings. So I think like that's like an example where like I think being able to like teach and like give that to other people would be really fulfilling for me. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we came to a conclusion after the first section. I feel like you put it nicely. Which I don't really remember what that is now, but but it felt like
investing for a later payoff.
Exploration
values,
and then like evolving into stuff like
Yeah. I felt like that first like half of the conversation was very much like timely, because like course registration is due tonight. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna take? Like am I gonna regret going down this path? And like I feel like there's a lot of similarities between like exploring like what we want to do and figuring out like what that main goal is that we want to pursue.
I definitely feel better about like I still don't know like the answers to the questions around like what I want to do or like what my purpose might be, but I think I'm more satisfied with like how I want to live my life, at least like in the near future, and how I like could potentially get there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to like every once in a while have this conversation and like land on the it's okay, like we're fine.
We're
like
gonna be okay. Yeah.
It's just like I think sometimes you can lose track of that. So yeah, it feels comfortable.
Yeah. I always end these conversations with like, well, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it'll work out. Yeah.